All right. Well, this is round 2 of building resilience after setbacks. So, in building resilience after setbacks, we will define the terms, talk about ineffective reactions to setbacks, the proactive things we can do to be ready for setbacks when they inevitably happen, and then the top 10 skills for how to respond when there is a setback. So with that, defining the terms, as we're saying setback, we are meaning any event where there is an outcome that is non-preferred and creating a negative internal experience. So there is a delay or an impede on a desired progress. So this could be socially, this could be in career work performance, this could be at school. We're looking at pretty much any life area where we had a goal, had a desired preference, and then whatever hurdle created a setback in our lane. So then when we're talking about building resilience to be able to overcome these setbacks, we are talking about an ability to withstand and or recover from this negative event with flexibility and strength. So we'll be focusing on how do we have that flexibility, that strength, and quite frankly, the allowance of I can allow what has happened to happen and find my path forward versus feeling stuck in it. So with that, we want to watch for what are the ineffective reactions. So these are the things that are human, and it makes sense why they would come up, or makes sense why we would want to go to them. And with that, are completely ineffective to moving forward or having a more successful, I would say, we're looking, these are our reactive responses versus effective responses. So reactive tends not to serve us well. So our ineffective reactions could include explosive emotional episodes. There's way too much emotion. We're on an angry rage. We are hysterically crying. We are in a state of panic and having that wild anxiety chasing us around. So when our emotions are heightened to this place, we are not going to make effective choices. We're going to make reactive choices that tend to create even more hurdles versus paving the path forward. There's also overcorrection, where then we try kind of the Kool-Aid man through the wall. We're trying way too hard. We're trying to force the situation to occur, which unfortunately might work a lot of the time and create patterns where we'll then experience burnout. We'll experience these levels of fatigue where then we'll go into actually our next ineffective responses of shutdown, withdrawal. So there's a lot of people who, this is kind of the unfortunate yin and yang of ineffective responses, because we will overcorrect and be too much to a place where then we need to isolate, we need to withdraw, we go into a shutdown, and thus no action is taking place, which is ineffective. We have the blaming others. So not taking accountability, not getting to grow from the experience, but kind of hiding under the identity of a victim in the situation, where few and far between, we may be a victim, but there's, I'm like, I try not to use but in that time it's a good one, because just being the victim does not allow us growth, does not allow us learning opportunities, and certainly does not help us paving a path forward. And then seeking negative outlets. This would be binge eating, substance use, spiraling down the rabbit hole of social media and like just devouring screen time. So ineffective use of our time, we're not moving forward. It's kind of all in the realm of that withdrawal and hiding in. So with that, those are, to be human, it would make sense that we would go into that. But what can we do? And this definitely starts with the proactive measures. What can we do daily, just in our routine, that helps us build that kind of momentum, strength in our self-esteem, self-identity, self as a whole, that makes it easier? It's almost like, to some extent, we can just pivot because we've had these great behaviors. So in our proactive measures, this would be number one, sleep. Are we getting enough sleep? In the bell curve of what is needed, the majority of us need somewhere around 8 hours of sleep. With that, we're going to have our immune system, our healing. That is revved up while we are sleeping. Very important for us to, I think, a lot of us get hit with that cold when everything else is going wrong. We're probably not sleeping right, and our immune system is getting attacked with the amount of stress we're in. So sleep, a regular sleep schedule, very important. Nutrition, having proper nutrition. We're looking for as much whole foods as possible, good sources of lean protein, and most importantly, the limit of added sugars and highly processed foods. Those are not going to be helpful. They're not going to nourish our brain or nourish our body to have the right energy levels and immunity that proper nutrition would. Not to say we need to be restrictive and we can't have some treats here and there sprinkled in, but being mindful about when we're eating in the day, making sure we're not going for too long of periods, and then having quality foods, meals and snacks versus the quick but maybe highly processed pieces. And with nutrition, we would also want to be paying attention to hydration. The brain is the first thing to become dehydrated. So if we are not getting proper hydration, we can be lacking what the brain is needing to make the best decisions possible. From there, we want to look into daily habits of movement. And I say movement because it does not have to be time at the gym, but are we spending time on a walk, doing yoga, playing the sport, dancing, cleaning the house with vigor, whatever it is. We want it to be 10 minutes 3 times a day of some kind of movement gives the brain benefit. Now, if we were looking for physical benefits, we would need to possibly extend that, make it maybe slightly more vigorous. But if we are looking for simply the brain benefit, then a 10-minute walk in the morning, midday, and at night would be what we would need. Kind of burn off that cortisol and set us up well for good focus and concentration. There's also the part of proactive measures of having a good support system. This is going to come up later too, but important to put in. We can't just have people when we're in crisis. We're mammals. We need people all the time. Not a lot of people, but we need our people, that core group that gives us that connection as we need. So these are big factors into, as we're doing these things every day, we're naturally going to be in a healthier place. We're going to just have generally a larger stress tolerance to be able to handle some of the inevitable things that come up. But from here, we need to have also skills in place for these inevitable setbacks. One important skill is self-acceptance and the belief in oneself that the actions we take, it's our agency, the actions we take can have positive effects. Self-acceptance also says, I know this is hard. I know this is frustrating. I know this is non-preferred. Whatever we need to say. We accept that the outcome is not what we're looking for, but our worth has not changed. Our worth stays whole all the time. We get feedback and see our behavior didn't hit the goal, so we need to pivot or find different behavior, different path, but our self-worth stays the same. From there, a big one, cognitive flexibility. It's one of my favorites in the executive functioning territory. And by far, there's many sources that would say cognitive flexibility is one of the utmost important skills to have for life success in general. And what it does is allows us to pivot, to roll with the punches when, if we think about it as driving, when this lane is closed due to construction, we just find a new path and we keep going. We're able to be very flexible. It's not the moment of how we thought it should go isn't happening, we shut down. Not helpful, not adaptive. So with cognitive flexibility, we're able to really keep the flow of goal progress despite whatever comes up. From there, positive outlook. And that's not toxic positivity. And it circles a little bit back to that agency again, where there are possibilities. And again, just because it's not happening the initial way we thought it should happen doesn't mean our goals can't happen. And a positive outlook helps us immensely with our resilience in that this was not the path, but there are all these other ways to try to find the path. I think this goes very much in the idea of Thomas Edison found like 100 ways not to make a light bulb first, right? So in a positive outlook, like, okay, now I know it's not that way, so that has just kind of cut it down, limited my choices for what will work. But and maybe the silver lining in some of our setbacks is it allows for some reflection of core values. And this being we either are able to make meaning from the setback we have, or we can clarify values. Many times with some reflection, we might see that a goal was misaligned or somehow incongruent with our current core values, and which this is why the setback occurred. This is why something didn't go as planned. And it not in the realm of self-sabotage, but there is again, this misalignment, this incongruency is going to really interrupt our ability to move forward freely and free flow. So when we have a setback, it is a wonderful opportunity to reevaluate and really identify what are my core values. And when we look at it under an acceptance and commitment therapy lens, this is where we get our valued direction and committed action. So we commit to action in this value-aligned place that helps us feel good regardless of the outcome. We know I made these choices to be aligned with my values, so if this wasn't the outcome, I can learn from it and see how I want to pivot, how I want to move forward. It's kind of keeping it so vague because are we talking career? Are we talking about, not making the part in the school play? They would look very different of how we move forward, but that part of really being aligned with our core values can help immensely with the motivation to keep going. From there, I told you we would circle back to it, social connection. Social connection, very important for that day-to-day in general meeting the social connection needs. Also, when we feel we've been knocked down, who better than our core people to ideally can we laugh about it a little bit? Can we vent about what happened? We can process the situation. We have more minds coming together to think about what are the options for moving forward? What can I do in this situation to make it better? Who can I talk to? What are the next steps? It's just the more the merrier in trying to come up with next plan and having that validation, encouragement, and just people who can understand and have us feel heard and understood can be so helpful in our building resilience and not feeling alone and just weighed down by whatever happened. From there, we want to make sure we have effective communication. There's a part of, when we think of passive communication, it's not necessarily wrong. And passive communication gives an essence that we're not sometimes that we're a pushover, but it's not that we're really strongly footed in what we're saying. Where aggressive communication tends to be more in that reactive lane, that there's a time and place for that too, not necessarily helpful. Where when trying to respond to a setback, assertive communication is most likely going to be best serving. For assertive communication is all about having a space to express yourself, to express your needs, to express your opinions, while leaving this space for the other person to be able to do the same. It's like now we have all this information out together, and with all of this information, knowing our own needs, the other person's needs, we can see what kind of compromise, what kind of cooperation we might be able to come to where we can be in agreement. So having those skills, wonderful for building resilience, being resilient, but in general, it's very helpful for being able to self-advocate and get a point across where we're heard, but we're not bulldozing the people in the room. So another important skill that's and maybe another silver lining to a setback is it gives us time to reflect on what is our real goal and are we setting realistic goals. For if we are setting unrealistic goals they're unrealistic. I'm like, what more do I need to say, right? It's too big, we don't have the right time frame, we don't have the right resources. An unrealistic goal is kind of an ineffective place to put our energy. But there's a little bit more in the gray, murky territory is being unclear about a goal, to which these steps become there's some ambiguity to what steps to take because we do not have this clear goal. So we might be experiencing a setback not because our behaviors were ineffective, but because our goal was so murky, was missing so much clarity that we were unable to attain it. So resilience is built when we're able to clarify what is the goal I'm working on, and what, more importantly, what is the realistic goal I can be working on. And then from there, going from that endpoint of what we're going to be reaching and dialing back to break it down into manageable steps. So in this sense, we're building resiliency and agency and clarity for what actions we're really trying to take. With that, we have problem solving, and that kind of goes in with when we're making those step backs from the end goal to where we are now. There is a little bit of problem solving that goes into of what needs to be done to get us from point A to point B. In different situations, it might be our goals were clear the whole time and we had unexpected hurdles that we could not plan for in advance. There was no proactive piece of this, but now we need to problem solve. Here, I'm going to red flag and put one of the most important life hack lessons to know. When we are experiencing a crisis, a setback, something where our emotions are running high in the moment and it is upsetting, our very first step is to self-soothe. We need to calm those emotions down. So if our self-soothing is through music, is through movement, is through connecting with others, is through deep breaths, is through getting a good night's sleep, is through journaling, right? Giving you lots of options. It could be all of the above if you want. We need to do whatever it takes to simmer down. Because if we are in this heightened place, we are not going to be able to problem solve, which is life hack code. First step, self-soothe. Second step, problem solve. Once we are regulated, that's the point of self-soothing. We are re-regulating the nervous system, getting back to baseline. From there, we problem solve. So we identify the problem we are solving. It's maybe not haha funny, but it's funny how many people are trying to solve the wrong problem and then getting flustered that they're stuck. What problem are we really solving? We need to have clear and accurate identification of the problem. From there, what are the possible options for this problem? Possible solutions. From there, we say, what are the likely outcomes of those options? Which one seems to be best fitting option? So we choose that. We test it. And there's a big part of we're keeping that open mind. We're keeping that cognitive flexibility of I'm testing this option and then I'm going to reflect. How did that work? Do we now have the outcome we desired, or do we need to go kind of back to the drawing board? Let's make sure we're regulated. Our first step is self-soothe. And from there, we can problem solve again. Did we have the right problem? What is our problem to solve? What are our options? What are the likely outcomes of those options? Which one seems like the best? Let's test it. This is like rinse and repeat now. And there's an amount of resilience there when we have that plan of action of this is how I keep going with persistence until I meet that goal. And then by far my absolute favorite skill for resilience, finding the humor. Life can be something that weighs us down, is dreadful, is hard, is complicated, is confusing, or life could be quite the joke. And there's a time and place for both, of course. We want context of the situation. And if we are able to find the humor in some of our errors, and I would argue that helps us grow, because it's not this shame and dread we feel with our mistake, but rather, oh, I can't believe I did that. That was, oh my goodness. That could be fun. And arguably, we might step out of our comfort zone and do more that's in the unfamiliar territory of growth if we know we could laugh at ourselves, if we know, like, this is not, and assuming majority of our situations will not be life and death, so we can find the humor in it. And the few and far between that are that serious, we would likely save humor for a different day. That's that. But humor can take us a long way on a bad day. Yes. So with that, I will wrap up in the sense that, yes, setbacks happen to the best of us. Sometimes it is our own poor planning. Sometimes it is just inevitable life circumstances that are thrown our way. But when we do have, one, the daily habits to keep our nervous system, our immune system, our physical and mental facilities running on high, that in its own can help us pivot in the moment and maybe not even experience the setback as an actual setback. With that, we will have setbacks. So there are these list of skills to kind of help us build that resilience in the moment. And biggest life hack lesson, our first step, self-soothe. We regulate that nervous system, get back to our baseline. Our second step, problem solve, how we move forward. And as we do that, we will notice a lot of these situations are maybe non-preferred, but quite manageable. So, fine. There we go. That was the fast forward version, but a version on tape. Okay, bye-bye.